Today's section is the second segment of the Spring 2021 Lunch and Learn program. We chose our spring topics to be timely for the tasks and common turf issues facing homeowners this spring. We hope you can tune in to as many sessions as possible, and we encourage you to tell friends and families about our program. All of these sessions are recorded, so if you miss any or simply want to review a topic, they are on the VCE-Fairfax YouTube channel, referenced in the chat box. You can also find the fall 2020 sessions archived there. Now let's turn to Master Gardener Janet for a comprehensive look at what lawn repair issues you may face this spring. Janet.
Thanks, Terry. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge Master Gardener Ernie, who took the lead in developing this presentation. I know all of us are so excited about the tulips coming up, or the daffodils, all the beautiful flowers that we're anticipating, but it's also a time to start to look at our lawn as well. We'll start with an overview of healthy lawn principles, and that will introduce 3 key practices to lawn repair: top dressing, aeration, and dethatching. Then we'll look at 5 projects a homeowner might need to tackle. Okay, next. Like everything else in your garden, the health of your lawn starts with your soil. Think of it as your lawn's foundation. To have a healthy, verdant turf, you need healthy soil. That is soil that is teeming with worms, fungi, and microscopic life. Improving your soil starts by ensuring it's got enough organic matter. Most of us in Northern Virginia have heavy clay soil. Chances are that if you can't push a trowel 4 to 5 inches through your grass into the soil with reasonable effort, your soil is compacted and doesn't have much organic matter. But don't panic. Top dressing your lawn with 1/4 or 1/2 inch of compost each fall will make a huge difference over time. The worms and microscopic life will do all the work, and in a few years you'll be amazed to find rich black soil that extends a depth of 4, 5, or even 12 inches. And you'll see the difference in your grass as well. Just be sure to use fine, high-quality compost. Packaged compost can contain almost anything, including shredded cardboard. And it may have a high or low pH. Check the label carefully or ask an expert at your local garden center for guidance in selecting the right compost for your use. Another practice that helps overall soil health is aeration. This involves perforating the soil to allow air, water, and nutrients to reach deeper beneath the surface. It helps the roots grow deeply and produces a stronger, more vigorous lawn, and one that is able to hold up to the stresses of hot summer weather. By increasing soil permeability, you also reduce runoff, and that puts more moisture in your soil and keeps nutrients from running off into our streams and ecosystem. Our first Lunch and Lawn presentation in 2020 on reseeding lawns goes into detail on core aeration, so you'll want to check for that if you need more information. When performed in the fall, core aeration will usually include overseeding and top dressing of your soil with compost. The next step in establishing a healthy lawn is to check your soil's pH, along with its macro and micronutrient levels. Lawns prefer neutral soil with a pH of around 6.5 to 7.0. Soil tests report any deficiencies your soil might have and how to correct them. It will also let you know if your nutrient levels are sufficient, so you won't waste money and time on unnecessary amendments. The sample test report shows a pH of 5.7 and deficiencies in phosphorus and potassium. So you can see the 5.7 and the 6 on the top, L and M minus under potassium, the P and the K. At the bottom, you'll see it recommends applying lime to increase the pH, plus fertilizer to correct the nutrient deficiencies. And it'll tell you just how much to apply, so it takes the guesswork out. It's good to have your soil tested about every 3 years. The Virginia Cooperative Extension provides a convenient and inexpensive testing service. Our first lunch and lawn presentation of this season on March 17th covers testing in detail, as well as where to pick up the test kits. Next slide, please. Next, let's talk briefly about lawn care practices. Contrary to popular belief, spring can be a risky time of year to fertilize your lawn. Grass roots have been storing up carbohydrates all winter, and this gives us the lush top growth we are beginning to see in mid-spring. Adding excess nitrogen at this time promotes additional tender succulent growth, which then serves as a host for a number of fungal diseases later in the summer. As mentioned, it's best to fertilize cool season lawns in the fall. But if spring fertilization must be done, it should be done carefully, applied only at half the recommended amount. And most of us in Northern Virginia are planting cool season grasses. Now, this may sound like surprising advice based on all the commercials out there right now. So let's hear a few words from Tony about why this is so important.
Well, Janet, you're absolutely right. We look to unbiased and objective university studies on turf, and yes, they do study turf. After all, it is a plant. No one in that community advocates that spring should be the prime season for fertilizing cool season lawns. Fall is the time to do that. So as you say, Janet, we're told that we could apply no more than 1/2 the normal amount of fertilizer, but what often happens is that people get so caught up in the moment that more than the prescribed amount gets applied onto our lawns. And going back to your point, since some fungal pathogens prefer new, tender, succulent growth, that can make it an inviting setting as a host for fungal diseases such as brown patch and dollar spot that show up later in the summer. And while we're on the subject, remember that, as you said, applying excess fertilizer can result in runoff that can harm our watersheds. So is there any benefit at all to springtime fertilizing? Well, it might extend the lush green springtime turf growth, which is probably going to begin to slow down with the increasing hot weather toward the end of May. But remember, it's not essential for the health of the lawn. So, Janet, taking your advice, we can save ourselves the added work and do our lawns a real favor by deferring that fertilization till the fall. Over.
Thanks, Tony. That's such great information. Also, Jenny is going to put out a link to this chart in the chat box. You'll have it for future reference. You'll also notice, for those of you who do have warm season grasses, that lawn care program is on the chart as well. Okay, these best practices can help correct or prevent future issues. To keep your grass plants healthy, you should cut grass with a sharp lawnmower blades, cutting no more than 1/3 of the grass height. So if your grass is 6 inches tall, you can cut 2 inches off, taking it down to 4 inches. To achieve this in the spring, you may need to cut grass twice a week, as I am already doing, especially during its heavy growth period in May. It all depends on how quickly the grass grows. You should cut your grass on the highest setting your lawnmower provides. This not only puts less stress on your grass plants, but it also shades out weed seeds and reduces weed growth. Another best practice is to use a mulching lawnmower. This returns really finely chopped organic matter to the soil, along with all the nutrients stored in the grass blades themselves, thus conserving the benefits of any fertilizer you previously applied, hopefully in the fall. It also saves time because you don't have to collect and dump grass clippings. I found that in spring, particularly, it takes less time to run over the lawn twice a week with a mulching lawnmower than cutting once a week and having to stop every 5 minutes or so to dump mounds of clippings. You will also want to ensure your lawn is getting at least 1 inch of water each week. So for weeks without rainfall, you will need to water. Deep watering, slow and steady wins the race at a rate of 1 inch per week is what your lawn needs. Don't include rain from downpours or thunderstorms in that total. It can't soak in and provide any benefit to your lawn. Okay, next slide. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty of what you'll be dealing with this time of year. If you didn't put down a pre-emergent in early fall, you will most likely have a crop of winter weeds: chickweed, bittercress, dandelion, purple dead nettle, to name a few. You want to nip these in the bud, literally, by either hand pulling if there aren't too many, or applying a weed control product. Most winter annual weeds can be controlled by just one application of weed killer. Now is the time to win the battle. Flowering weeds produce weed seeds and future weeds. Beginning around April 1st, tomorrow, it will be time to apply pre-emergent control for summer weeds. This group includes the notorious crabgrass. Pre-emergents provide annual weed suppression for only 2 to 3 months, so they will need to be reapplied in early June. Master Gardener tip: focus on cultural practices. This helps to minimize herbicide and pesticide use. No one ever has a perfect lawn, and many of us prefer old-fashioned lawns with a little clover here and there to fix nitrogen. By focusing on cultural practices, you'll build a healthy turf that crowds out weeds. These practices keep weeds from completing their life cycle and reseeding. Over time, you'll get along with the aesthetics that you want. That is also much healthier for your family and pets to play on. Okay, now on to some problem weeds. You may also have some more difficult weeds to deal with that don't respond to the standard routine. You can identify these tougher weeds online, but it may be easier to take them to a garden center or master gardener for advice. Challenging weeds such as shepherd's purse, we'll hear more about later, nimblewheel, or yellow nutsedge take a lot more persistence, and perhaps the use of specific herbicides if your infestation is too large to conquer by hand pulling. Once you've considered these basics, there may be a larger run repair project you want to tackle. We've selected 5 that many homeowners face. Okay, so case study 1 is dealing with tire ruts. The lawn shown here was damaged by a delivery truck that backed onto it in wet weather. The tire tracks displaced existing lawn area and created drainage problems. The depression left was filled with topsoil and seeded. However, the existing lawn was a warm season grass, and a cool season grass was used in the patch. The lesson learned was to know the grass mix in your lawn and make any repairs with the same mix of grasses. A variation on that theme, there we go, is a rut along one or both sides of the driveway, often caused by family members. Because this tends to be a repeat occurrence, it's probably worthwhile implementing a pavement solution. And you see some different options here. Okay, case study 2, dog urine damage. Now, this is another issue that many homeowners face, whether it's your dog or your neighbor's. Dog urine contains high concentrations of nitrogen. That's why it burns the grass. Dog urine may also be highly acidic or alkaline, adding to the problem. For your dogs, select a special area for them to go to the bathroom and train them to use it. You can dilute their urine by encouraging them to drink water before they go out for a walk. For some reason, my dog tends to do that automatically. You can also hose off the area immediately after your dog urinates. To reduce damage from other dogs, you may want to use a deterrent spray to keep them out of your yard. You can also switch to a lower nitrogen fertilizer for the area at risk. Water that area immediately if you see a dog urinating on your lawn, or apply lawn repair enzymes. Terry, I think you had some comments here.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add and reemphasize that the damage from dog urine, again, can be mitigated by limiting the amount of fertilizer that you eliminating or limiting the amount of fertilizer you're putting on your lawn, particularly in the spring. So another good reason to reconsider our practices about fertilizing in the spring.
Great, thanks. Okay, now case study 3, tree shaded lawns. All too often, planting plans don't take into account the height, shape, or crown of trees and shrubs 10 to 20 years after planting. The sunlight in the affected area is reduced over time, leading to thinning of the grass. Thus, it becomes a continuing lawn problem. This can be compounded by the developing root system, especially for trees with roots near the surface, like maples. Roots above ground create not only a lawn maintenance problem, but may also cause a trip hazard safety issue. One solution is to apply a thin layer of topsoil around tree roots. You can go up to 2 inches, but not more. And perhaps a better solution is to add a shade-tolerant natives or perennials between the roots such that mowing is not required. In the sample shown here, they've just mulched really close up to the tree base, but then further out have put a nice plantings with a defined rim and no need to mow all the way up anywhere near the tree. So there are a lot of creative solutions like this. Okay, next, case study 4 is thatch buildup in the lawn. Thatch is organic matter that lays on top of the soil, made up primarily of grass stems, stolons, and rhizomes, both living and dead, that have not yet broken down or decomposed. A small amount of thatch is good. It helps moderate soil temperature, retains moisture, and provides organic matter to the soil as it breaks down. A thatch problem occurs when thatch builds up faster than it breaks down, forming a dense barrier that deprives the root system of air, water, and nutrients. It also provides a desirable environment for turf insects, provides conditions favorable for disease organisms, promotes shallow rooting by limiting root and rhizome penetration into the soil, prevents seed establishment by keeping the grass seed from soil contact, and restricts the movement of water into the soil. Among the cool weather grasses, you're more likely to have thatch buildup with Kentucky bluegrass than with tall fescue. Of the warm season grasses, Bermuda grass is more likely to require dethatching than zoysia. And in our area here in Northern Virginia, if you have a warm season grass, it's more likely to be zoysia than Bermuda grass. Okay, excessive pesticide use is also a problem because it kills worms. Overwatering and excess fertilizer use can create thatch issues as well. So start here and see if you can eliminate the cause. If your thatch thickness is between 1/2 inch and 1 inch, dethatching is recommended. For a small area, use a metal rake to remove the thatch. If you've got a larger area, consider using a power thatcher. Compost the thatch or bag the thatch in a paper yard waste bag and take it to the county facility. Paper yard waste bags are required here in Fairfax County. You can't use plastic. Okay, case study 5, poor drainage. We've talked about soil compaction and some ways to handle it. But if you still have issues after you've done your aeration and you've added organic matter, you may need to step it up and consider more mechanical ways to handle it. And this is an example of a localized drainage problem alongside a house. Due to stormwater ponding and a very clayey soil, water remained for days after a significant rainfall. This impacted the quality of the lawn area. The solution was to construct a French drain to direct water to a lower elevation within the property. Installing a French drain requires the use of heavy equipment. A French drain professionally installed in a neighbor's house a few years ago cost around $2,500. Tune into our program addressing poor lawn drainage coming up on April 28th for more information. Depending on the size of the issue and your engineering skills, this may require a professional solution. Okay, next slide, please. A less costly solution to the problem could be creating a grassy berm to divert water away from your house. So if you look to the left of the slide, it's hard to tell here, but it slopes up to keep water from getting to the foundation. It's a lawn that runs down, and then between the crease up against the berm, it directs the water flow off. And then another option is creating a rain garden filled with plants that can tolerate days of waterlogged soil. All right, so For more information on the main topics in this presentation, here are the references that were used. These are references provided many of the details on lawns and lawn repairs.
Thank you, Janet.
Welcome.
And as we move on, now we're ready to review our Weeds of the Week. Roseanne, what do you have for us on Shepherd's Purse?
Okay, Shepherd's Purse. Wow, this is a good one. I've been learning a lot about it. Shepherd's Purse is a winter annual broadleaf weed. It's also a member of the mustard family, so it does have an edible fruit. If you see the little pods on it, they're kind of flat, triangular shaped. And for some people, they like to eat them. They have a peppery flavor, so they can be used as an addition of spice to salads and stir fries, things like that. And this is one way, these little pods are one way you can recognize the shepherd's purse versus other mustard family plants. And it got its name pretty much because these pods look like old time, the little leather pouches that were carried by shepherds long ago. So that was kind of an interesting fact to learn. One of the things, though, to keep in mind is while they are edible, they can cause digestive irritation if you consume too many. So you want to be careful of that. Some people also use them as an herbal remedy. So that's another option to look into it if you follow any practices there. While it's commonly found in winter crops, orchards, vineyards, nurseries, and roadsides, and disturbed soils, for the homeowner, we find it in our lawns, particularly the bluegrass, tall fescue, perennial ryegrass, and the common Bermuda grass that we have. So let's look at ways to identify it. If you see the seedlings, they have little rounded tips and smooth edges with kind of toothed edges also. You can see a seedling there on the right-hand side. The mature leaves have toothed or lobed edges. The true leaves on it are covered with these little star-shaped hairs. Sometimes you can confuse them with the hairy bittercress. I know I myself, based on the flowers, was confusing it until I learned more about these. You can see samples of the hairy bittercress on the left-hand side, and unfortunately, that's kind of perfusive right now in our lawns. So how about the growth pattern on this? We know that it germinates in the fall, as we've been talking about. Usually starts when your extended temperatures run about 75 degrees or below, and has its major growth period late winter, early spring. So we're seeing it pop up all over the place. It can grow to about 20 inches tall, particularly like soil that is nutrient poor. So another reason to do those soil tests and keep all the nutrients at balance in your soil. Flowering usually occurs early spring into early summer. You can recognize it because it's got those 4 white flower petals on stems. We have a neighbor down the street who has what I think of as the Smithsonian Museum of Weeds. So going by their house, you can identify all kinds of weeds. And that's one of the helpful facts about these programs that we're offering is you learn to identify what different weeds look like, and then you can address them in your own lawn. I think out in front of my house, I'm having a weed party, so I'm a little disturbed by that. All right, so then let's look at how we can manage these things. There's 2 ways to manage them, or 3 ways actually. Mechanically, the best means is hand pulling. Get out there with your little weeding tool. Get your kids involved, make it fun. If you have an ornamental garden, dense planting and organic mulching really help. If you have larger crop gardens, you want to rotate those warm and cool season crops in high density, but be sure to clean up any debris. One of the things also about shepherd's purse is it has what's called a long seed bank, meaning that the seeds can go dormant for many years, and it has a short germination period. So the plants can produce several generations each year. I kind of think of it as the weed that keeps on giving. However, the seedlings are small, so controlling them at that early stage is very effective, particularly if the soil is wet. So like I said, hand pulling is the best. Culturally, just as Janet said, you know, using those good lawn practices that we talk about, maintaining a healthy, dense turf, that helps to compete and prevent any weed establishment, proper weed selection, mowing the right height, mulching, etc. All these things that we talk about are good lawn practices and will help in deterring these little things. How about chemical management? We've been talking about the pre-emergents that Janet mentioned. So what can we do with those? One of the things is you can look at the Virginia Cooperative Extension Pest Management Guide that's available online. The pre-emergents, okay, in lawns, we want to apply them late summer, early fall, like Janet mentioned. You can refer to table 5.6 for the recommended herbicide active ingredients. Post-emergence, you're going to apply those in early spring, as we mentioned, but you want to apply those to the actively growing weeds, otherwise they're not going to help, particularly when it's young. Get them while they're young. So here's some table references for that and some examples of some of the active ingredients to look for. You can also talk to your local garden center and they can provide information on that. And another way you want to use your chemical management is in your gardens, where you have, next slide, where you might have fruit trees or you might have ornamentals that you're concerned about, but you've got this shepherd's purse growing on everywhere. Tables to refer to for the pre and post emergence for both the fruit tree gardens and the ornamentals to control those. So lastly, I have some resources that you can refer to for more information. In the next slide. And then we're going to go on to the rough stock bluegrass, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Janet?
Yeah, absolutely. That was great, Roseanne. I thank you very much. And Noreen, if you're ready, you can take it away with rough stock bluegrass.
Noreen, you need to unmute, please.
I thought I had. Sorry. Welcome. Rough stock bluegrass, or Poa trivialis, is a weedy cool season perennial grass. It grows in the northeastern, southeastern, midwestern, and Pacific Coast states. I will focus on its identification, habitat and growing conditions, and controls. Rough stock has stems that are erect, bending, or reclining. Its height ranges from about 12 to 40 inches. In a lawn, grass leaves may appear lighter green than Kentucky bluegrass, but can turn reddish brown during drought periods. In my moist, shady lawn in the spring, this rough stock grass is reddish. These 4 photos show the rough stock blade with a boat-shaped tip. The ligule, a large tapering and membranous outgrowth at the junction of the leaf and leaf stalk. The detached collar and the collar attached to the stem, which is flat. Feel the stem. In Virginia, rough stock blooms mainly in May and June, but will continue blooming throughout the growing season. The seed head is an open pyramidal panicle, about 2 to 6 inches long, composed of whorled branches. Rough stock has fibrous roots and stolons, or stems, that grow above ground. These stolons expand spread of the grass. Now we'll talk about the habitat and conditions favoring growth. This grass grows in woods, meadows, along roadsides, and in turf grass lawns, maybe yours. It remains green in winter, but may have tip burn. It thrives in moist, shady soil. For this reason, it is sometimes used to cover bare spots in a shady home lawn, such as mine. Its intolerance to heat, drought, and foot traffic makes it unsuitable for a sunny lawn. It can go into dormancy, resulting in bare patches of soil. Now we'll talk about the controls. Maintain a healthy, dense lawn with proper mowing height, which, depending on the grass type, can range from 2 to 4 inches. Before seeding or reseeding a lawn in the fall, buy high-quality grass seed that contains no rough-stock seeds. Read the label carefully before purchasing the seed bag. In the spring, hand weed to remove all of the rough stock, including stolons and roots, before the grass seeds. You may need to use a shovel or sod cutter. Do not compost the debris. Trash it to prevent regrowth. If coverage is extensive, a total lawn renovation may be necessary. Weeding is easier after a rain. No selective herbicides are available to homeowners. This grass should be spot treated with a non-selective glyphosate herbicide. Non-selective means it can kill whatever it contacts. Consider this option only if the weed is extensive in the lawn. Follow directions and precautions. A helpful video from Virginia Tech demonstrates the glove-on-glove 10%, 90% glyphosate treatment. Mix only the amount needed so that there is no leftover mixture, which would have to be taken to a toxic chemical waste collection facility. You cannot pour it down the drain or on the road. My references include the video to which I referred. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Noreen.